ahead and hit it. Welcome in, Basement Dwellers. Gonna have a really good show. We finally did it. Somehow we lost our own password to our own email and couldn't hit go live on YouTube, even though the room was already set up. But on today's episode, we're gonna be talking about Bitcoin price pumping right now. Could we break 30K? The dollar still continuing to collapse. We've got a whole new cast of characters on today's episode. All this and more on today's Blockchain Basement. Let's go. Bum, 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 bum. You ready for this? I'm ready. Welcome.
If you're gonna screw me, at least pull my hair.
Hell yeah. What you got?
They could start chopping off fingers. They're like, give me your seed phrase, but
Yeah.
I don't know it.
About to give the numbers out. And I was like, no, hang up the phone right now.
Or like when it dropped in 2020, was it like exciting?
400,000 to 600,000. The generational signals are now.
Level. So I don't even know if we're gonna get back below there, but if we do, that's kind of where we
All right, we got a whole of some familiar faces, but new first-time visit to the basement. If you want to scooch a little closer, you can, so there's not this big awkward
Get
gap
on
here.
in there.
Might have to move the mic there with you, but we've got David, 100% not financial advice. You might recognize him from the chat. We've got Rice TVX, Tim Warren, Investing Bros, and then of course on the board, the Druth is out there. Oh, yeah, there he is right there. Oh, that light isn't. I was like, he's looking dark over there for some reason, but the Druth is on fire. We've got Bitcoin pumping right now over 29,000. That's looking pretty good. Exciting. Of course, it waits till after the morning stream wraps to get all the price movement. So will we break 30K? We're going to look at some of that. I'm going to hear a little bit from these guys about their crypto stories. If you guys have any questions at all, that's right. Janet Yellen says 3 new friends. If you guys have any questions at all for our new friends, be sure, throw it in the chat. We're going to make this more conversational today. We do have plenty of stories to get into, but I just have a feeling we're going to probably just be chatting a little bit today. I do have an interesting, I don't know if it's a thread, a tweet, whatever, some data to look at on top 100 wallets and what percentage of the supply they hold. Some big notable projects on there. I think the one that has the most is going to surprise people just a little bit. Rug Gang says, yo, TJ, your cup says semen. It says basement, actually, is what it says. But you're right, if we angle it just so.
Hey,
Shout out to the Rice Bowls and shout out to Gary Guzzler. He's my homie.
Yeah, Gary Gussler. Yeah, there's some great names in the chat here. We got shout out to all of you guys. We got CT, Blazing 2JZs, Janet Yellen, Captain Daddy, Crypto Stevo, Gary's Guggler, Paper Hands, Moonboy, Crypto Rex, WB, my favorite fan, Crypto Boogie or Bogey. We got Big Hands, Dan, Chemistry Bro, Mama Crypto, Battletoads, Corvette 3v4s, Aztec World, Cryptotonic, This is the Bitcoin Way, Joseph Cupitor, Riddle with Puns, Corey Harden, Aztec World, Razmataz Manawak, of course, and many, many more. We love all of you guys. If you could, smash that like button. Please help us get the Bitcoin message out there, help people change their life with crypto, and jump the gap. And speaking of changing your life with crypto, David from the chat, and this is it's always fun when we have people that are regulars in the chat actually here in the basement. So he's been in the chat multiple times. I'm sure you guys, like I said, recognize that username. 100% not financial advice. But you were telling me a story a little bit earlier this morning when you were in the office about kind of when you first came into Bitcoin. You said you had somebody pitching you on it in like 2013. So tell everybody a little bit about that, like how you came into it, what your experience was, and when that moment was when it kind of clicked, like you were telling me.
There was a guy I worked with in 2012 who hounded me all the way until 2013, kept saying, you got to get in. You're a smart guy. You can figure this out. You need to get into Bitcoin. And I didn't really understand what he was talking about at the time, but he finally, after about a year, talked me into it in 2013. And so I bought in at about $45 a Bitcoin. And I watched the price continue to drop and drop and got down to $38. And I started screaming at him, pretty much telling him, hey, this is going to zero. I told you it's going to zero. Yeah. So I sold it all at $38 at a loss.
Wow.
And he continued to hound me all the way up into 2017 when I got back into Litecoin and been into it pretty much full on since then. But since then, he's retired a multimillionaire. Yeah. He's younger than me, and I'm still working. Yeah. So, but at least I understand.
I had to ask you, David, who is Carla?
That happens to be my wife.
Oh, hey.
Hi, wifey.
Hey, Carla. Shout out to Carla in the chat. Yeah, you were telling me basically your buddy was you guys were working together, and then slowly he was going from working 5 days a week to 4 days a week to 3
days a week.
Yeah, and then 2 and then 1.
Then he went down to 1 day a week, and then sometime in 2018 he went down to 3 hours a day, and by the end of the year completely retired.
Yeah.
So,
And so yeah, that got your attention. And you're like, wait, maybe
That got
I
my
should keep looking at this stuff. And then for those of you, I'm sure a lot of you guys know Rice already. If you watch Around the Blockchain at all, he's a regular on the Around the Blockchain channel. But we do on this channel get into a little bit more of the conspiracy theories. You know, you can call it conspiracy, you can call it front running the truth if you want, but tinfoil hat, whatever, you know, we talk a little bit of just like, hey, off the cuff, what's what we're thinking. If you guys enjoy that kind of stuff and you haven't checked out Rice's channel yet, you definitely should. So Rice, tell them a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you and I have known each other quite some time. You've been in crypto for quite a while, kind of run 2 different channels, you know, mostly, I would say definitely blockchain focused, but really freedom, decentralization, self-sovereignty, that sort of stuff. So tell them a little bit about yourself, why Bitcoin and blockchain inspires you, how you got here, that sort of stuff.
So I learned about crypto and stuff like that, like kind of when David did, but I never really took economics and finances and stuff really serious. It wasn't something that was important to me. And then I started going to school for business administration. I started being lied to by my instructors, and it really pushed me into cryptocurrency because I really started to fully understand what fiat money represents, what it is, and fully understand what fractional reserve banking is, that our system is based on debt and IOUs, and our fractional reserve banking is basically a form of usury. And these things kind of led me into crypto. That I saw that as an answer, a way to get away from the control mechanisms of central banks and governments, and my way to hedge against what's happening to the dollar. And I started a channel in 2018. I put out my first video January 2018, and started working with Ken Bozak, who's a mutual friend of all of ours. And within my first interview was with Ken Bozak, and that's what actually pushed me to start my channel. And then me and Ken started doing a show called Last Week in Crypto, and that kind of started what I was doing. And then from May of 2019 is when I started being consistent with what I was doing, putting out at least 4 videos a week, and just try to educate people as much as I can about the ethos of what I feel that Satoshi Nakamoto had created in the Bitcoin white paper, the cypherpunk values, the values of privacy, the values of not having a central bank or anything to print money and devalue the currency that you have. And I really wanted to do my best to try to educate people about what crypto is and the power of what crypto is. And yeah, when I originally started my channel, it was very, very crypto economic focused. I would talk about volunteerism and what anarchy is. Once 2020 had hit and we had seen a lot of action on the streets that made the word anarchy look bad, I stopped promoting what anarchy was because was just getting associated with things like Antifa. And so just ultimately, I just really feel that I need to help keep that cypherpunk ethos alive. As I was telling you, TJ, before we went live and all this, I'm very, very frustrated with crypto as a whole, just seeing the direction that it's taken. I look at all the original people that got involved in crypto, your Eric Voorhees, your Roger Beers, who are all about sound money, getting away, being your own bank, not working with the banks, not trying to make the legacy TradFi system relevant and keep staying in existence. And so my fight is to just keep keep that ethos alive, because what we see with the introduction of central bank digital currencies and digital ID, people need to be educated as to what the power of Bitcoin is in representation to the opposite side of what central banks currencies are. So I feel very fortunate to be able to have a voice in this space, and people actually take what I say seriously. And hopefully, you know, like when people watch my content, whether it's on Around the Blockchain or my channel, hopefully I am providing value to people, and I'm hopefully making people think about things, because the narrative in crypto, as most people know, is very controlled. So the more that we can keep our voices shouting as loud as we can to keep those ethos alive, I think is what we need. because I mean, you can see how the crypto media is targeting certain people. Roger Ver is a perfect example where he just went from Bitcoin Jesus to Bitcoin Judas, and he never changed anything about himself. It was the people around him. So crypto has changed a lot, and it's very frustrating. But at the same time, I just can't back away and just give up my fight. This is a fight that I feel like I have to be a part of for the rest of my life. And when you mentioned freedom, I mean, we may get to a point where SHTF and, you know, people are actually have to do something. I'm ready to actually take a stand for the things that I talk about.
Well, and I love to hear that. Now we need that more than ever. Like you were saying, we're in that, we've been talking about this on the show recently. We're in the now they fight you stage of, you know, first they laugh at you, you know, then they fight you, then they join you, all that sort of stuff. We're in the then they fight you stage right now when it comes to crypto, when it comes to the United States. I mean, you mentioned the central banking a couple different times there. I'm a big proponent, guys. If you haven't listened to or read, I prefer audiobooks, but if you haven't listened to or at least read The Creature from Jekyll Island, that really explains the way, you know, the Mandrake mechanism of how money gets created through debt. You know, I mean, it's very, like, if you're almost the more simple minded you are, the easier it is to see through the BS of like, this doesn't make any, like, if you just think in simple 1 + 1 = 2, and then you hear the way our financial system operates, it's very clear that it's, you know, it's built up, it's a confidence game. And once somebody calls that bluff, it all comes falling pretty quickly, which is part of what we've been experiencing now. So real quick, I want to jump in and check on the price, and then we're going to come to Tim here because he does a pretty good amount of TA. So as you guys can see, I mean, this is all the way, like if we come back here, we're back in like March 22nd, 23rd. So if you guys have been watching the Bitcoin price for a while, you can see we've been trading in a pretty tight little range here. Just you guys can't see this line as easily as I can, but really bumping our head off of this, you know, $29,000 number for quite a few weeks. And just before the show broke out, we pumped where we're sitting at, let's see, what does it say? Not 29,145 right now. So you can see we're poking our head above this level, which is great from a TA perspective if we can hold it, which you hear people say all the time in TA. You know, if we can hold this level. Otherwise, if we come back and just wick right back down into the range, it's just another time that we're retesting the support. But a lot of people are looking for us to break out at least towards 30K. Frank was looking at on the morning stream, Frankie Candles on the BitBoy Crypto live stream this morning, a possible opportunity. If we can break into that 30K, there's a lot of room to run all the way up into that 50K range, which would be consistent with what we saw in 2019 when Bitcoin went from basically 3,200 all the way to 14,000 before falling back into that range. And don't get me wrong, I do think, as I've said on this show, as I've said, you know, really since December, January, all this year, I do think we will spend the majority of our time this year trading in a pretty tight range between 20 and 28. You know, if we can break out through it, like I mentioned, up into that 35 plus range, you know, really through 30, somewhere between 30 and 50, I do think, you know, that we'll get a breakout there at some point in the middle of this year, but I do think we'll fall back down below between 20 and 28 for the majority before moving up again after, you know, getting close to the halving of 2024 and beyond. So Tim, real quick, Investing Bros, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll flip it back to the chart and you tell us what you think about what's going on with the price right now and kind of what your gut says for the next, you know, week or two.
Yeah, I'm probably the baby in the room right now, the crypto baby. I am a stimulus check crypto investor. That means August. Oh, well, I got it before that, but August of 2020 was my first purchase into Bitcoin, and then it expounded from there. Some of you guys who know me have heard the story before, but I was one of the ones that fell into could have gotten into Bitcoin a lot earlier, but laughed at it when friend is a particular term. A guy who was kind of a friend, not really a friend, was
somebody you used to know, right?
Yeah. Back in 2013, he tried to convince me that Bitcoin was what Revelations discusses when it says the one world currency at the end of the world.
Dang, how do you guys all have friends that were pitching you Bitcoin in 2013? This was not on my radar in any way, shape, or form until about 2017. I was like, and then I was immediately sold. But I don't know what happened with you guys in 2013.
For me and my friends, it was Silk Road. So
yeah, okay, exactly. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Well, mine was just a random guy. He's one of those guys. Just to put in perspective, he became a hemp farmer.
Okay.
So I don't know if I regret my decision-making paradigm of not listening to the advice to invest. I do regret not investing, obviously.
Sure.
But then, so some of you guys know me from the Crypto Jeb show. Shout out to Crypto Jeb. He was a good friend of mine. He's the one that convinced me, hey, Tim, take this money, invest in something long-term. I was one of those paycheck to paycheck type of people. I was a personal trainer. I trained a lot of athletes. Crypto was not really on my radar, but I trusted him. Went ahead and went in with my stimulus checks. Ended up going and working for Jeb, helping him run the company there. And I was like, if I'm going to be here, I might as well go and learn this stuff. So those of you who used to watch, you guys know I've evolved from the voice of the people, but non-crypto Tim was a nickname I was given. After about a couple months, and it looked like I actually understood what a chart was saying, not how to read it, but they moved me up to kind of crypto Tim.
Kind of crypto Tim.
Kind of crypto Tim. And then it just went straight up. I got decent with TA. One of my biggest influences, especially we're discussing tinfoil hats. I love the teachings of Wyckoff. People know people used to say I should be the brand of the composite man or something because I talked about the composite man so frequently. But it's just crazy how you can utilize that on the charts with people, with how the news is correlated. So that kind of really sparked my TA upbringing. I became TA Tim, started my own channel here last fall, called the Investing Bros with a buddy of mine, T Shroom. And so we're taking off. Go follow us this morning. They had a great call. Their title this morning, I was proud of them. They said breakout coming within the next 48 hours. Boom. It took
Here we
less.
are. It's breaking out.
Yeah.
So there you go, guys. Go check out Investing Bros. If you wanted to see what their call was right before this happened, Justin Eubanks says, yo, Blockchain Basement with the God panel. Yeah, we like bringing in random guests. Like you guys know, we had Wendy last week. We got Tim here. We had Rice. He actually just stepped out real quick. He'll be right back. And then, of course, 100% not financial advice. Dave, how do you say your last name, David?
Brumbelow.
Brumbelow. Yeah, he said Rice says he calls him Bumblebee, which is a fun one. So
Bumblebee works.
All right, let me hit this article real quick. Cover 5 things to know in Bitcoin this week, and then we'll dig in a little bit more on some of our picks and some of our thoughts on the crypto market today. I do love this article from Cointelegraph. They put it out every Monday. In case you guys haven't picked it up yet, I usually cover this on Mondays because it does a pretty good job at summarizing just everything in it. Is not necessarily relevant, but it does summarize things to keep an eye on. So Bitcoin starts this week on a firm footing as bulls send BTC price to new 10-month high at the weekly close. And I will say this, I have been very impressed with Bitcoin's strength when it comes to holding this 28K level. Every time it feels like we're going to start slipping and losing it, we're at 27.8, or even if it starts falling to the mid to low 27s, it snaps back above 28. Like even yesterday, it might have slipped into the 27s, and then right before I went to bed, back above 28. Today, I was thinking, what if it loses 28, and then boom, jumps right back to 28.5. So it moves pretty strong and healthily to hold what I feel like is a pretty strong level in this 28K. So it's been interesting to keep an eye on with it. But obviously it's got this resistance in the 29 to 30 range. So after a relatively calm week, last minute volatility is getting traders excited at the prospects of a repeat attack on 30K resistance, but a lot stands in the way. This is what we're experiencing right now. And what is set to be a significant week of macroeconomic data releases, which I think, yes, there's a lot of macroeconomic data releases, but I feel like they're a little less pivotal, than obviously, like they're releasing the minutes this week. That's a lot less pivotal than the actual announcement. Like people pretty much know what's going to be in the minutes based on, there's some small details, but not nearly as impactful in my opinion. So, and we'll look at that. So CPI headlines, key macro data week. So here we go. We got March CPI inflation data on Wednesday. We've got the Fed minutes on Wednesday, March. So the CPI and PPI are something we want to keep an eye on Wednesday and Thursday. Consumer sentiment data on Friday, retail sales data on Friday, and then 4 Fed speakers this week. So that's pretty interesting. I wonder what all those talks are about. So that's something to keep an eye on. I do think we're going to, which we've talked about before, we're seeing rate hikes getting priced back in. So basically, let's see, what does that say? 63% chance of a 0.25% raise. So another 25 basis points there. Why won't that go away? Sometimes this escape works, sometimes it doesn't. But this is interesting because a lot of, politicians, bankers, Jamie Dimons, a lot of those people are calling for the stop raising rates. We have to hold right now. We have to pivot. We have to cut rates. But that's not been anything Jerome Powell has said, hasn't really alluded to. At best, I think they hold. But I don't really see them cutting rates, at least in the next couple meetings, maybe before the end of the year. Do you have any thoughts on that, Tim, on the rates?
Yeah, I think that nobody knows what's going to happen, honestly. And watch, again, I told you guys, the Wyckoff kind of teaches this. Look at how markets are manipulated. Look at how people do things. What would not surprise me whatsoever, I know they just printed money for banks, but don't be surprised if that data doesn't really get into this CPI and PPI for March. Watch the inflation go down. Look for that to be the excuse for the pump that's about to come, even though just looking at the charts, the pump is coming. Watch for a bank something bad's going to happen this month on a bank. It's going to come out as very convenient, but we're watching the market kind of respond in a way that it hasn't before. Those of you who watch Investing Bros know that I'm comparing the run right now to 2019. I think that's what Frankie was talking about this morning over on the BitBoy show. And just look at the similarity. So I'm going to kind of do a little flyby TA. This is radio TA. You can back check me, but go back to 2019, back when we had bottomed out in the bear market. We came to bottom. We started to pump. We got above a very key level of former resistance. I believe the level was somewhere around 6,500, 64 maybe, but 6,500. We peaked out, but then we paused, and we spent about 31 days kind of ranging sideways. We had some pumps, we had some dips, but a lot of people more than likely were predicting that rally was over. Here we go, it's over. Then within 17 days, we pumped 85% up to 13,800. Guess what happened during that time? Ethereum did rally a little bit, but it paced behind Bitcoin.
Well behind.
Altcoins stayed a little hesitant. Go look at your charts right now. Which of the big movers, if you're looking at top 20, top 50 coins, which coin right now has the biggest jump right now? It's Bitcoin. Don't be surprised. I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but don't be surprised if we see a premature bull rally happen. And guess what? 85% up from where we kind of bottomed at the last bottom. It's 50,000. Guess what 50,000 is? That's right there in the area, 4850, where we were last March. And then do not be surprised when, just like in 2019, we got up all the way to 13,800. People were sure it was the bull market. The price crashed 54%, came back down to what level? Back down to 6,500, the former resistance level. In this case right now, guess what the last significant resistance was before this good break? It was 25,200. We broke below, we came back up. I'm still thinking we're going 48, 50,000, crash back down 50%. Guess what that level is? 25,200. We bounced right there, and then later on, we'll see a bull market start where alts actually outpace Bitcoin. But again, that was radio TA. But go look at your charts.
Yeah,
and, yeah.
No, I was looking at that kind of while you were going along there. We've got kind of the chart in here, and this is exactly what Frank was talking about today, where basically it bottomed, rallied all the way up into here, and you could see this is the right in the channel where we were experiencing resistance on the way up. He's kind of got it drawn, and there's a lot of correlations between what we're experiencing now and what we're seeing from this bottom. Basically, here's the U bottom there. Here's the U bottom here. And this ran up, like he was saying, about to 14-ish, 13 and change. Pulled all the way back down to reset to, like if this is here, what we're experiencing right in here, pulled right down to reset before the halving, and then boom, off to the races. So yeah, I think that's great analysis. I will be interested to see how similar it does work out to being. Because like they always say, the history isn't always the same, but it is often, similar rhymes. I've heard it so many times now, I feel like it's so cliche to say it over and over and over again.
Let me ask you, man. Do you think the Bitcoin bottom is in the price?
Yeah, I'm in the camp of saying yes.
You don't think we're going to go below 15.5-ish?
I don't think so. Obviously, that could happen. But I think we're going to do something similar to 2019. But even that, like when you look at 2019, because some people will say, like, when you look at that chart, you're like, oh, well, it did go below that 6,500. Well, guess what sent it below? It didn't set a new low, but it was the pandemic. I don't know where YouTube is with us saying the C word.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to
good.
say, okay, we can say COVID now?
Yeah, they've been okay for a
what?
while. Yeah.
The shackles are let off.
We still say pandemic just out of habit.
I've even heard people use the L with that and get away with it now.
Oh my gosh.
I call it flu season.
Flu season.
Yeah, mysterious bat flu season. No, so we went down lower because of a black swan event. So could a black swan event come into play that sends us down lower? It absolutely could.
Yeah, because we got World War III on the horizon.
And so are you in the camp that you think we'll see a lower low, Rice, or where are you falling?
I'm not a TA person, but I feel like we will. I don't feel like the worst is in yet. I feel like even the bank collapse is just beginning. Like we're going to have more banks going down. So, and obviously the United States government seems to be, well, I can't say the entire government, but a faction of the government seems to have a war on crypto.
Definitely.
They're trying to take away the off ramps, the on ramps, and they're just trying to make it difficult for everybody. I wanted to appease. Somebody was asking me where the glasses were, so I wanted to go ahead. I wanted to be a people pleaser today and put on my Into the world goggles.
I like it. Yeah, we got 400 people watching right now in the chat. If you guys like the goggles, smash the like button in the chat. If you don't like the goggles, smash the like button anyway.
Smash it anyways.
Yeah. If you like the price of Bitcoin actually moving above 28,000, smash the like button. What you got, Tim?
Well, I was going to say something even referring back to what Rice was just saying out there. I think something to think about is maybe altcoin bottoms are not in, but Bitcoin is. Because even look at what there's war in crypto right now. We are in a phase of war in crypto. But if you're actually looking at it, the war's not on Bitcoin.
No,
the war is on
else.
altcoins.
Everything.
And actually, I think what we're seeing governments position themselves, even with CBDCs, which are horrible. But what they're going to do is they're going to find ways to weaponize Bitcoin against each other. They know that Bitcoin is a strong store of value. I think it's almost like the fight of Bitcoin is done. Bitcoin is won. The fight right now is, will altcoins follow behind? So watch a massive rally on Bitcoin up towards 48, 50,000. Non-financial advice, but something that I'm going to do. This is what Tim Warren's going to do. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to set a sell order at 48,000. I think we'll wick a little higher, but I'm going to set a sell order at 48,000 because I think that we'll get that high.
What kind of time frame are you talking about?
And so, yeah, even that, like, you know, that saying, a lot of people are saying that, you know, sell in May and walk away. Well, like I mentioned, in 2019, after that 31 days of hesitating, just trading sideways, in just 17 days, it rallied 85%. So we can, we're at the beginning of April. You know, we're the first third of April. We absolutely could start a 17, 20 day rally on Bitcoin all the way up, and then it starts to dip back down where altcoins stay a little behind. I think Ethereum could potentially rally up to 3,000. I think watch Cardano maybe get back up to some levels around 42, 43, maybe start to flirt with 50, but not get up to where 85 for them would be closer towards, you know, 70 cents. I think you watch altcoins. I'm not saying you won't have green candles on altcoins, but they will not outpace Bitcoin. The dominance on Bitcoin is going to surge toward or over 50%. And then there's going to be a 50% dip in Bitcoin. Well, guess what? If there's a 50% dip in Bitcoin, it's going to be absolutely horrendous for altcoins. So altcoins could end up setting some new lows, going lower, where Bitcoin revisits 25.
If we don't hit 48 though, and it doesn't hit that number, and we retrace 50% back down, that could technically put us below the 15.5.
Anything's possible.
And I tend to agree actually with everything you were just saying. That's very consistent with what I've been saying on this channel for most of this year. I do, you know, and it's consistent with what I experienced in 2019. Basically, you know, all these alts were doing great in 2017, 2018, and then you start doing that. And that's why I caution people all the time, don't do math of your altcoins based on, okay, when Bitcoin was, this is what a lot of people did in 2017, 2018. I was victim of this. I was like, okay, when the Bitcoin price was $20,000 in or December 2017, and my Cardano or my Tron was this value, and then they all fell. Now Bitcoin stays sitting at $10,000. All I need is Bitcoin to get back to 20K. And man, where my Tron's going to be is going to be insane, or where my EOS or all these things that are, you know, I don't even really hold anymore. And that's what a lot of people are doing right now. Like, okay, I bought Algo when Bitcoin was, say, $40,000. I bought Algo at this price. Now Bitcoin fell to 20K. Algo fell to this, you know, whatever price it fell to. I bought a bunch more Algo. Now if Bitcoin pumps to 40K, I'll be a bazillionaire in Algo. Well, guess what? Bitcoin pumps to 40K, and your Algo hasn't really gone anywhere. And I'm not saying, I'm just using those those coins as an example. I'm not trying to FUD Algo or anything. I'm just saying that's exactly what happened through 2018, 2019, and even early 2020. We saw Bitcoin's dominance get stronger and stronger. Now, I don't think we're going to see this cycle. I do think there's a lot more solid altcoin projects on the market today than there was in 2018 and 2019. Because you got to remember, those days you were coming out, there was a lot of washout from a lot of bad ICOs back then that needed to go to zero, in my opinion. And now there's a lot of altcoin projects that, they've had major corrections, but they're still there. They're still building. They're going to be relevant in the next bull cycle. But are they gaining against Bitcoin? And you can see even with Bitcoin, I think it'll be a challenge for Bitcoin to get to 50% dominance. I think it can pretty quickly. I don't see it getting 55, 60 like we saw last time, but I do think 50 is still in the cards.
I think it depends on how soon the SEC gives some regulation and how much they deem things to be securities, though, too.
I agree.
Something like EOS, you know, not obviously a big fan, but EOS is not a security. Like they've passed that test. So some projects, in a way, would be like the way that Tim was talking about Bitcoin. Some of the crypto projects are already deemed as what they are. So like EOS is kind of, you know, in that sense, not that it's a good project, but it's
they've already paid the piper,
right,
so to
they're
speak.
not a security.
Yeah, there's a handful. I mean, even Dash is another one, and Litecoin, a lot of these other ones that have gotten market distribution. It's clearly a secondary market, you know, depending on the way that, you know, Nano would be another one that I could say would be very tough to call.
Now, let me ask you this though, since you're bringing this up, this market, I think we're going to, the last bull market, we did not see like your Digibyte, your Litecoins, those kind of Dash perform as well as some of these newer coins. Now that there's speculation
If we
going
say
on.
Litecoin 3 times, Tom Crown disappears.
Litecoin.
Yeah.
But I love Litecoin.
Yeah.
Actually, me and Tom Crown both spoke at the Litecoin conference. He was moderating it and hosting it.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So what was it? So if you're saying,
I think this year we'll see a higher return on some of the older coins because of like, if we're looking at Bitcoin as being a commodity, I think that we can pretty much assume that Bitcoin Cash, BSV, Litecoin, and a lot of these other coins, even like Digibyte, would also be in that category because they didn't have the ICO.
Right.
There is nothing for the SEC to go after them for security. So I think some of these longer term coins are actually going to be performing a lot better. A lot of people should be taking Litecoin a lot more seriously, being that it literally was a Bitcoin code. There's no way that if the CFTC and the SEC agrees that it's a commodity, there's no way they can say that Litecoin is a security.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have that same theory that I do think most of those older projects will be in the category pretty clearly protected as commodities. The question is, you know, do people want newer things even if they're deemed a security, or is trading this other thing that's deemed a commodity what they want? I mean, it's good. You're right. The SEC and where they land and what they say in some of these cases is going to have a very noticeable impact on what happens in the next year, 2 years, as all this stuff continues, because it's an interesting theory to think about, because I do think almost all of those older ones will be clearly outside of the reach of the SEC. The question is that enough for the market to gravitate there or not? We'll have to.
And one thing too, like to use Litecoin as an example, a lot of people think that because Litecoin is not exciting, it doesn't have DeFi, they don't want to use it. And it's if it works and it's not broken, why fix it? I mean, it works good as a currency. And you can use different blockchains and different cryptocurrencies for specific reasons. And as much of a fan as I am of decentralization, I know that there's a time and a place. When it comes to my currency, it needs to be decentralized. But when it comes to certain kind of other projects, like something like Polygon, it's going to need some little bit of the centralness to allow for the throughput to take place. So again, it's just a time and a place and where you stand in those matters. Because I definitely am not in this world that everything needs to be decentralized.
Yeah,
I've come to terms with realizing that is not a possibility.
Yeah, that there's yin and yang to that, right?
Yeah.
You need it in certain parts of the world, but you also need some sense of centralization in different applications of different things that whether you're not specifically, I'm talking applications of life, not necessarily, or applications of technology, not an actual app.
And also, just to remind people that want to talk negatively about Litecoin is the longest existing blockchain. It's had zero problems.
Yeah, that is true.
So all the problems that Litecoin had that Bitcoin had experienced with the inflation bug and all these other things that made it not immutable, Litecoin has able to been able to capitalize on that. People just haven't realized it.
Absolutely. My man, Tom Crown is going to be listening to this tonight, putting himself to sleep.
So, Tom, are you finally going to come on my show now that I'm kissing Litecoin's
all
ass?
this Litecoin love? And real quick, since we're talking about commodities, commodities have been flying these last couple of weeks. We've been talking about gold on this channel the past few days.
I love gold crypto, Steve-O. I love gold and silver too.
Gold. So here we go. We got oil up 8.2% in the last week. Gold up. This is pretty big for gold. 12%. Like I mentioned on Thursday or Friday. I don't know where it is right now, but it's approaching price discovery. I'll have to check on that. 24%. I was shocked for silver.
Yeah, last I looked, it was like over $25.
Yeah, that's a pretty good move. And then the dollar falling about 3.6%. So we are seeing a shift towards commodities. We are seeing people put their funds there, their money there, trying to protect themselves. We had this from Jay Childs. Johnny was on the show earlier and shared, we talked a little bit about this, I believe Thursday or Friday, the Treasury saying crooks prefer, this is the Treasury actually refuting its own statement.
Oh, wow.
Crooks prefer fiat to crypto in a DeFi risk report. Why? Because it's way more tracked on the blockchain. It's way harder to hide your trail on a blockchain than it is with cash and dollars. And, when it's hand to hand, person to person. So, we'll dig into that in just a minute. And this is you mentioned Voorhees earlier. Let me see.
And by the way, I would much rather go into time travel and live in 2015 and live in this year right now that we're experiencing. I can go back in time in 2015 and know what was ahead of me in 2020, I would gladly say that I live in 2015 right now. So
Yeah.
thank you for that compliment.
Yes.
Somebody said that in the chat. That's hilarious. Yeah, and this is I feel like why decentralized currency is so important. You just shared, you want your currency to be decentralized. You want separation. I'm a big fan of separation of money and state, and this pretty much sums it up right here. And we've seen it throughout history in different areas. Eric Voorhees says slavery was wrong when it was legal, and protecting runaway slaves was right even though illegal. Good humans have the moral obligation to do what is right regardless of the law. And if you do not have, if your currency or if your money or your store of value is 100% tied to the rule of law in the land that you're in, you will without a doubt 100% see tyranny prevail, which is what we've seen around the world right now. So I just thought that was an easy way for him to share that.
I love Eric. Eric's a good dude. What he did with Shapeshift, turning it into a DAO, was one of the most powerful things, and other people should learn from his example.
Well, speaking of, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually had that as an example because I'm a big fan of what he did there because he's very intelligent legally and with regulation, which is why I really think he should be the one leading this. So he was sharing some of this over the weekend about them looking into Shapeshift being a DAO. He says, to be very clear about this to all listening, it was not Shapeshift's transformation from corporation into DAO which removed it from the Bank Secrecy Act obligations. Rather, it was when Shapeshift integrated DEXs months earlier and thus was no longer a quote-unquote intermediary because they were using decentralized exchanges. So he's breaking down, this is where somebody else was saying the U.S. Treasury's report on DeFi subtweets Shapeshift and even cites a CoinDesk article titled Shapeshift is going full DeFi. So basically, if you guys aren't familiar, the article or the report that they put out last week that was attacking DeFi was basically saying, for instance, VASP announced in 2021 that it would transition from a traditional corporate structure into a DAO for the purpose of ceasing to collect customer information for the AML CFT or CFT compliance, although in practice this would not have impacted the service's BSA obligations. So basically they're referring to Shapeshift right there, and what he's saying is it actually wasn't us moving into a DAO that prevented us from having to collect all of our users' information. It was the fact that we weren't actually doing the money changing. We were using decentralized exchanges, and we were just a front end application for people to access those things. I think he goes on to explain a little bit further here. BSA applies only to financial intermediaries. If you are one, then you must comply or be caged. If you are not one, then the BSA is irrelevant. Lawyers and regulators love to use the phrase facts and circumstances. So Shapeshift changed the facts and circumstances. Decentralizing into a DAO was an additional set of changes in our facts and circumstances and was done for specific reasons, but it was not for BSA reasons, which we had already solved by ending any arguable status as an intermediary in April 2021. And he quotes himself here in his blog statement. With our integration of these DEXs, Shapeshift will no longer provided trading services, and yet users didn't lose their ability to trade. We outsourced and regulated activity to an immutable, decentralized protocol. So like you were saying, I absolutely love everything he's done with Shapeshift. He's definitely put his ideals and principles of decentralization and freedom at the forefront, well ahead of profit, which I think many other people, it's been tough. They start, like you were saying, they start with very idealistic and wanting to change the world, make it better for a lot of other people. And then too much money comes into play and they just get enticed into, hey, why don't you just make it better for you and your family and your small circle, not the entire globe.
Well said.
Which is tough,
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I appreciate people's freedom of choice, but it sucks when you see people, in a sense, sell out.
Absolutely. And I am glad to see Brian Armstrong stepping up a little bit more recently with some of the political stuff. I feel like I'm still not sure how I feel, if I trust it 100%, because the timing is quite convenient for him on an enterprise level. But Jesse Powell has always been very strong, I feel like, in the sense of, pushing back against some of these things and putting ideals first. Ryan Selkis right here, 2-bit idiot from Masari, big fan of him. He's talking about Coin Center, which I agree is he says Coin Center is phenomenal on A, DC education, good credible advocates, but B, protect us from some of the gravest threats we face. That's supposed to say face, not fact. Violation of speech and privacy rights. C, he also says developer rights. That said, crypto faces broad battles and more aggressive reinforcements are needed. Let's see. Coin Center can't be the friendly face of crypto and go on the attack. We need more aggressive orgs that will fight with fire and win. To be clear, we have real bad faith enemies today. Sitting senators that would prefer to rip up the Constitution when it doesn't serve their needs. Regulators that push industries offshore and pursue regulation by retribution for personal political reasons. Aggression is needed. The question is whether a more aggressive organization can be stood up to do battle without being actively counterproductive. We can't bring the barroom brawl tactics of crypto Twitter to DC. It needs to be more surgical, like a boxer or an MMA fighter, less wild but dangerous. So what do you got? Let me ask you guys that. What do you think when it comes to, especially you, Rice? I know you got a lot of thoughts on regulation and such, but what do you think when it comes to pushing back on DC? Can we get regulation into place that's positive, or do you just see it all as a waste of energy?
I think that we can do some positive things. I mean, look, we've had multiple governors now speaking out against central bank digital currencies. So it gives me a little bit of faith that some politicians don't like what's going on or the direction that we're taking, and they're trying to make sure that they're taking care of their states. So I think that, with the right individuals, and, it's got to be the right combination of things. It's going to be the right lobbying groups. It's going to be the right politicians that you're working with. So it's a combination of things. But as long as they can, the right lobbying group can find the right politicians to work with, I feel that we can definitely achieve something that's going to be good for the people. But it's just but it also is going to take the people too, to make sure that they're communicating to their constituents as well. So the people that you're voting for are supposed to represent you. Make sure you're making your voice heard as to the ways that you would want them to vote. Because if you don't, then they're just going to vote the way that they feel that you might want them to vote for you,
or the way that they feel that they might get a better donation in the future.
Because
run
obviously money, you grease the wheels, and that's one thing you guys have learned with the lobbying thing. It's all about greasing the wheels.
Yeah.
And it's very unfortunate. I would like to see taking that part out of politics, because these people are supposed to be public servants. They get paid to do their job, but yet you gotta grease their wheels to get something done. And it's really sad and pathetic. And I would love to see a change in that. And there's actually something I'll be bringing on my channel in the next few weeks that's talking about something about trying to eliminate that.
Really?
Bringing some awareness to it. So I'll keep you guys up to date with that.
Very cool. So, Tim, where do you fall when it comes to regulation, pro-crypto regulation senators? Obviously, we're seeing a lot in the negative sense these days. Do you feel like Congress, the Hill, so to speak, can be saved when it comes to their take and their approach on crypto? Or does it seem like it's just going to get all pushed, overseas and offshore? And if you're into crypto, you might as well start looking abroad.
I'm going to throw it back to the Bitcoin standard.
Okay.
And that's not the one that quoted, but in the Bitcoin standard, there's a quote by Friedrich Hayek that I'm not going to get it perfectly here. I was looking for it on my phone to see if I have it saved somewhere, but it's not perfect. But the concept, by the way, there's a quote back in the 80s as we were officially going off the gold standard. Friedrich Hayek, for those who don't know, he's a classic. What's the word for it? He's a
philosopher.
No, he's not a Keynesian economist. He's a Austrian economist.
Austrian, yeah.
So very conservative with money. Very, hey, save, don't just inflate your money. But he's talking about the concept of fiat currency. He knew back then, even though we're going off the gold standard, the dollar was the strongest currency. America was the superpower of the world. He said, it was talking, in reference to how terrible the money was. He says the only way that we can go back to a stronger money is if, in some roundabout way, not being violent, not with blood, but we introduce a stronger form of currency that takes apart the system from the inside. What is a better description of what Bitcoin is? That's it. Like, that is what Bitcoin is. And so when you're talking about regulation, I completely understand the concept of fighting and saying, let's say no to all regulation. I understand the concept of, if you're hoping and praying that our government's going to go from being corrupt to uncorrupt, you're just fooling yourself.
Yeah.
We need a Trojan horse. Bitcoin is that. So it's one of those things that, in a perfect world, yeah, let's not have regulation. Let's let people be responsible for themselves again, and let people do what America was created to do, that is pursue happiness. We weren't guaranteed happiness. The founding fathers did not say you had the right to happiness. They said you had the right to pursue happiness. And if you're an idiot, unfortunately, you might not be happy.
Right.
If you're intelligent, you'll be happy.
Maybe if you're an idiot, you might have fruitless pursuits, I guess you could say. You can pursue happiness all you want, but if you don't know where you're going, or if you're going in 10 different directions, you may not find it. That was a really good breakdown there. I agree with you 100%.
And it's one of those things. it's play the game. Like we just said, we can't just go into Washington, D.C., call all the politicians idiots, say you're dumb. We have to do this very tactfully. And guess what? One of the advantages of crypto right now that if we're not careful, we will lose is that crypto is a bipartisan issue. We have the likes of what I call Auntie Beth. That's Elizabeth Warren, just because we share last name. We don't share blood. But Auntie Beth is trying to become the face of the anti-crypto movement. She, of course, is a very outspoken Democrat. At the moment where we're going is turning it into a political fight where we have more conservatives and Republicans saying pro-crypto, we're pro-crypto, and we're seeing some Democrats say that they're anti-crypto. I think that what we need to make sure we do is go in and fight for Democrats to be supportive of that as well. Whether you're a Democrat or not, there probably are lots of Democrats listening to this show. We need to fight to keep Democrats pro-crypto as well so that we do not have a split down the country, because when something becomes a partisan issue, no one looks into it and does their own research. They just shut their ears. They shut their eyes. They just say, whatever I see on a piece of paper, I guess you can't shut your eye, do that. Whatever I see Democrats saying or whatever I see Republicans saying, I'm just going to vote in support of that.
Right. That's unfortunate when we really see it become a party issue, like you were just saying, and logic goes out the window, and it all
because everybody picks sides no matter what.
We do not want sides picked.
Go ahead, Bryce.
People should. Politicians. If they listen to someone like Ron Paul, they would learn to not like the Federal Reserve, and they would appreciate what Bitcoin is and what cryptocurrency offers. And that's where I appreciate, even though I look at myself as a political atheist, agnostic, I don't adhere to anything. I'm appreciative of DeSantis, Governor Noem in South Dakota, and the various other governors who have spoken out, especially calling the central bank digital currency a surveillance coin or as a big brother. It's really attaching that George Orwell 1984 language that
absolutely
really needs to make people think. And I would love to see more politicians care about the people and not care about their party.
You guys saw Robert Kennedy's
you're gonna
coming
have to
out.
get up in that mic, probably. That one's
Oh,
late.
no, it's catching me.
Oh,
now.
it is? Okay.
Robert Kennedy Jr. is coming out hard against CBDCs, and he's a Democrat.
I know that really surprised me. And I'm wondering how he's going to fare because if you Google him and you look at what Wikipedia's put on him,
they're going to dust
they're
him.
They're basically make him sound as if he was a Republican because he's listed as a conspiracy theorist. Is what they call him.
A coincidence analyst.
And we're talking about the nephew of John F. Kennedy Jr.
Well, he's got pretty good reason to be a conspiracy theorist.
He's got a reason, but it's crazy that's what people are calling this man, being who he is and what his family has done. His uncle, it's just insane, man. And I'm thankful to see someone like Robert Kennedy Jr. speak out. It's the most unlikely Democratic candidate, but he's representing the Democrats, and I hope this gentleman fares well.
Yes,
and it goes back to what Frederick Hayek said. In some roundabout way, sneak it in there, right? Pay him. Is that right? Is it not? Is that corruption? Yes, it is. But let's use corruption for positivity. What do politicians want? They want money. They want you to come and give them money to have a stance on something. Let's Trojan horse them. Let's give them money. Let's give them Bitcoin. Let's get some Bitcoin people. Let's get crypto people, not just Bitcoin. Let's get crypto positive politicians. Even if they're corrupt as the day is long, as we can keep this train rolling positively for crypto and it cements its way in, just like the Trojan horse, it's going to get to a place where politicians, if they wake up and realize, this is actually going to take away our power. This is going to ruin that centralized currency we've been running now for 50 years without the gold backing it. We're too late. And guess what? Crypto's here to stay. Right. And so it's like, play the game well. That's part of DC. Don't go in there screaming at them. They'll shut down. Right. Act like a friend. Pay them.
That's what you got to do. You got to play the game. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything done. That's what, for example, that's what Ben Armstrong had to realize going to D.C. He realized he had to pay people. And it's unfortunate. That's why I say, it's really sad that these politicians get a paycheck to do their job, but yet you've got to pay them to do their job.
Lots of good comments in the chat, too. Prime Mutic. Is this a Matic or Mutic? Tom Emmer fighting for crypto as well. Another great politician.
North Carolina, shout out Tom Emmer.
Yeah, and then Sincere there says, never forget how his uncle felt about the Fed and what happened to him soon after that, which is very true. He was another Another one that was trying to get the Federal Reserve out of the U.S. and didn't end well for.
Well, just remember, people don't study history. The Federal Reserve is our technical third attempt at central banking in the United States. The first two attempts, while we were a nation, only had 20-year charters and were done because the American people realized what the bankers were doing. It's just now between the education system and the food and everything else, and the conditioning from the media. People just it's a travesty that people back in the revolutionary time period would get angry over taxes being raised by pences, just pennies. But here, like the fast food overweight nation of America is complacent and doesn't say anything or speak up.
Well,
no, they absolutely don't. They don't tell. I mean, Woodrow Wilson's the one who signed it back into law. I think it was in 1913 is when it, I believe, it was when it was proposed. I don't know if that's when it was signed
Originally,
into law.
I forget the guy's name, but it was like 1906, 1907 under
Aldrich.
Aldrich, yes.
He
the
proposed
Aldrich plan, and then Aldrich was so tainted, they had to get his name out of it and change the name of the whole bill.
Yeah, the Federal Reserve Act 1913. And then Wilson, I believe, was the one who signed it into law. And before he died, there's a quote from him. He says, "I'm the most unhappy man. I've unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated." And that's what he said. The guy who put it back in.
I've heard that's a false quote. I don't know if that's 100% correct, but I do like that quote, because if people don't realize, ever since the gold confiscation in 1933 and then fast forward to 1971 with Nixon taking us off the gold standard, we don't have money. Everything is units of account.
Absolutely.
So even I can't really honestly pay off debt with debt notes. So it's just, it's crazy. Like, we're just living in a grown-up world of monopoly money, and people don't realize that we're just grown-ups playing make-believe like a bunch of Muppet babies.
Well, and there's a big difference is that politicians back, 100 years ago were much more physically accountable for their decisions and how they were representing the communities than they are now. Now they're in ivory towers.
Remember, like, back in the founding fathers days, early United States, that when the people would run for president, the loser, the person who came in second place, was the vice president. So could you imagine if Donald Trump was the vice president for Biden?
Yeah, that'd be wild.
Hell yeah.
And so I think we need to go back to you don't need to pick your vice president. I like the fact that you kind of got competition in there, and you got to make sure you're doing your job well. Or you're going to be called out on not doing your job.
We'll move it to the next guy.
It'd be really nice to go back to the political system that we originally had that allows for the second place winner to become the vice president. Because again, they're not going to work together; they're going to work against each other.
In the day,
they work for the betterment of the people.
They didn't used to campaign against each other as hard as they do now, basically slamming and slandering the other party. So like, they were actually two respectable people, and it's like, all right, we're going to pick this one or that one. All right, the two of you guys go together and run it. Then they started attacking each other and running kind of. Now they're spending more money than some people make in a lifetime. Of course, yeah. So, all right, real quick before we're starting to run up against the time. Sorry for the late start today, guys, but I wanted to get you guys' thought on this. I thought this was a really interesting post. Ranking of cryptocurrencies ownership by top 100 holders on each chain for protocols. Most in hands of people to those least owned. So this is just, you guys are going to be looking around. There were some interesting ones on here, and I'll read them all off because for those of you guys who don't know, this is all out on audio. So if you guys want to listen to it on an audio platform, or if you could even just go review it on Apple Music, Spotify, Stitcher, any of those places, you can listen as well. So shout out to Ashley, who rips all this audio and gets it out there for everybody. But just very interesting. So this is the top 100 holders, basically the top 100 wallets for each one of these different currencies and what percentage of the supply they hold. So and this probably isn't every single one, this is a lot of the top ones, but going from least to most, which this will give you a pretty good sense of who's most decentralized in terms of holders or community. So you've got Bitcoin coming in at 14%, meaning the top biggest wallets hold 14% of the Bitcoin. Cardano, ADA coming in at 19%. XRP, interestingly enough, at 33%, and Solana, so two that get accused the most of being very decentralized, both coming in at 33%. We've got Litecoin, 38%, Ethereum, 40%, Tron, 44%, Avalanche, 64%.
Avalanche, Nick's gonna freak out.
Yeah, that there's 64% held by the top 100 wallets. 67% of Doge held by the top one. Some of these aren't too surprising. 71% of BNB. That one is a little bit higher than I would have anticipated. DOT, 72%. SHIB, 81%, which you hear a lot. But this one really shocked me. Matic, Polygon, 86% held by the top 100 wallets. So I just wanted to kind of get you guys, first read. You can keep that on the screen for a second. Let them keep looking at it. So first read down that list. Any thoughts? Any ones that jump out and surprise you guys?
I would say the biggest surprise, but it has a lot to do with all the chaos that just went down. There's a lot more to go into this. But Solana at 33%. I have to give that one as probably the most surprising one.
Yeah.
And then, Matic, that's surprising. But to me, I actually would go with the other surprising one on the lower end of this list is DOT at 72%. That does surprise me that DOT's that low. Well,
That's
that high.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking with DOT. Now, if you, TJ, when you were talking with this, when I first arrived, if you were thinking Matic was going to be the one to surprise me, that doesn't surprise me because in my example of decentralization and centralization, I said Matic Polygon needs to be centralized.
That's why I'm glad and why. So help people understand why this isn't concerned. Matic 86% held by the top 100 wallets. You're saying it isn't a concern to you. It's more of a feature of the chain, so to speak.
I mean, it could be a concern, obviously, if somebody wants to dump on the price of the coin. But again, it's a very centralized project. I think, and I haven't done my fact checking over the past year, but the last I had looked, the project Polygon has the admin keys for all of their project, which means that they have a backdoor into everything.
Wow.
Most of the time when you have the admin keys, these are usually split up into multi-sigs. Some are given to the community, some are given to different team members or whatever the situation might be. But again, there is a time and a place for centralization. Just the most surprising one to me would have been DOT because I would have thought DOT would have been a little bit more decentralized.
Yeah, and I was surprised XRP is the third.
Yeah.
I would have thought
XRP
the Ripple
would have been up in the top.
Yeah. I'd imagine, and I imagine 20% of this 33 has to be the Ripple Foundation because I know they hold a ton of it.
They own more than 51% of the supply of the tokens, don't they?
Not that I believe this is
circulating.
This is circulating.
Okay.
So no, they might have total supply, because they're going to be getting more as time goes on. But they've been selling it pretty regularly, for years and years and years to get it circulating. So it was pretty interesting.
I think another thing that's very interesting about that, though, to keep in perspective, is we are close to, if not already have hit the bottom. That those numbers will go down as we get towards the top. That's also showing you that there's a lot of whales who know to be in right now.
Absolutely.
Versus retail saying, hey, we're not touching this with 10-foot pole. We all know that. That's what happens. Whales buy at bottoms. Retail buys at the top. So watch us here in 2025, that list be completely shifted. Everyone's, below 50 because there's a lot of people in those projects. But that's also part of it.
Really good point. This is definitely the accumulation part of the cycle. And when you get outside of Bitcoin, the people with the most experience, whether you're an Ethereum whale, Matic, Doge, any of those, Cardano, any of those other things we're looking at, they generally, if you've done a few cycles, you can feel just based on experience, oh, this is the top, I need to be selling. Oh, this is the bottom, I'm loading up on all those profits I just took. So to your point, we'll see it spread out a little bit more at the top and then probably consolidate again a little bit more at the bottom. So I just thought it was an interesting thing. I mean, it seems like the chat was pretty interested. They were saying, mixed feelings on Matic holding so much. To Rice's point, yes, somebody can dump it, but also, a lot of these whales, we saw how well SHIB was manipulated to the upside. We know part of that is a result of the top whales knowing each other, being able to communicate with each other. So it's not always a bad thing when it comes to price.
No, because they can move the market. You just got to follow what they're doing.
Right. As long as you can profit on their moves, it can become an opportunity. However, it's not where you want your savings for the next 20 years because you don't know what they're going to do, when they're going to. It's different. It serves a completely different function than what Bitcoin does. So don't think about, and I do think somebody said that, I think it was Cassius said on Around the Blockchain the other day, that he classifies digital assets and cryptocurrencies.
That was the show that me and Paul did a debate on. So yeah, that's exactly what he said.
It's a great way to say it. You want to think of cryptocurrencies very different from digital assets. I really hate the term cryptocurrency, to be honest. It gets way too many people thinking in the terms of a currency.
Well, it's money of the dead.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? Do you not understand etymology?
Yeah, money.
But it's got crypt in it, so it's the money of the dead.
Yeah, no, it's money.
It's so crazy.
It's the space money. It's the Mars money. It's the crazy internet money. So, last thing I wanted to hit you guys with before we wrap up, and also if you guys are still hanging out with us, I know we have about 500 people in the audience right now. If you could smash that like button, we're always trying to get to 420 likes before the end of the stream. Completely arbitrary number. no real reason we'd be going for that. But yeah, smash it real good. But real quick, I wanted to ask you guys, I thought this was a really good little checklist to go down when you're trying to pick a project. And this is good exercise for you guys. I have been eating the sandwich. You guys can't tell.
I know. I was going to interject.
I'm
almost
We
done.
can't pull over
I
any
didn't
project.
actually think you ate it.
No, I took a few bites.
Okay,
But
sweet.
so which project are you bullish on? And it must have these qualities. I feel like if you put yourself through this exercise in every one of your bags, it's a pretty healthy exercise. So these are a lot of things we talk about when picking projects or speculating. It must have a narrative. It must have an upcoming catalyst. It must have an active community, active and working team, and building something innovative.
But I noticed it doesn't say doxed team.
No, it doesn't have to be
So
doxed.
I can't appreciate a non-doxed project
Sure.
depending on the project, because looking over different projects, you can kind of get an idea why somebody would not want to reveal their identity.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you just got a project that looks like it could be a pump and dump and they're not sharing their identity, you got to question why they're not sharing their identity.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys in the chat, let me know if you have any projects that fit this checklist: narrative, catalyst, community, working team, and building something innovative. And then we're going to go around, and I'd be curious to hear from all of you guys kind of what project you feel checks that number for all of you guys. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of us like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but outside of maybe Bitcoin and Ethereum, you don't have to, you can go as deep as you want. I mean, it can be a Matic, it can be anything. I'm probably, if I was going to lean on one I would put in this category right now, the reason I like it is Velas Exchange or even Apex Exchange. You guys have heard me talk about. Its narrative is that, decentralized self-custody exchanges, the narrative is on the rise. I'm a big believer in that narrative for this next market, especially considering what we saw with a lot of different centralized exchanges going down. The upcoming catalyst could be the regulation, you could say, pushing it there. Very active community. It's part of the Arbitrum. That's part of what people trying to farm it for the Arbitrum token drop is part of what jump started it. Active working team they're building something innovative, perpetual decentralized exchange. I think it's relative. So that's what I would use to kind of check all of those numbers. But I was just curious if you guys, and no pressure, if you don't have anything, you can just say, you don't have anything right now. But projects you're looking at that you feel like checks, a handful of these things, narrative, catalyst, community. Any thoughts? And let us know in the chat too. We've seen a lot of good ones: ICP, ARB, Flux, Caspa, Radiant, Nexa, ZRO.
I mean, I got kind of a fun one.
Yeah, let's hear it.
There's this one that I've bought and sold it in the last run, but it's called Polyswarm or NCT.
Yes.
Polyswarm,
NCT is good.
Yeah, I like it because it's got a narrative of cybersecurity and malware detection, upcoming catalyst, World War III, active community, hedge funds, and massive companies that are trying to protect their data, and other entities beyond that. And then the active and working team. I mean, their team is known to have some pretty notable people. It's not huge on Twitter or anything like that. It basically just, gets used by corporations. And then, I mean, I think they're building something innovative. Being able to scrub Web3 domains for malware is going to be more and more useful as people get more and more feisty. So that's what I'm looking at.
All right. Tim, Bryce, David, anything?
I hinted mine earlier. I think we're going to see a bull market for Bitcoin, not bull market, a bull trend for Bitcoin. The alts leave behind. Easy answer, ADA, Cardano. I saw someone say ARB. I'm on the fence about ARB because I think there's a lot of things that check there, but they did have some FUD. And the thing about FUD is a lot of people hear the word FUD and say, oh, that's fake information. FUD is not always fake information. It's just fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that could be a very true story that makes it go that way. And what it was the amount of centralization that's there. It looks like against a public vote, they sold and burned, or they sold a lot of tokens. And so I'm not ready to go full blown ARB yet, although there's a lot of things about ARB I really love. I don't have a particular coin that I'm going to choose, but I think when the bull market starts, meaning later this year, it's just hard to see AI new tokens and coins not having an explosive bull market. Catalyst is the easiest thing in the world. What is the biggest topic worldwide right now? AI development. So how can you not see the AI tokenization just explode as well?
Well, you got Charles Hoskinson saying Cardano may be looking into more AI technologies in the future. So maybe Cardano is your AI pick. You never know. That'd be quite the pivot if Cardano pivots to AI chain.
I want to shout out Nate G, who mentions Flux as Web3. Flux is a project that I did a joint interview with one of my sponsors, Presearch. And Presearch is the coin that I'm going to pick, and I'll talk about and explain why and why I'm so bullish on it. But there is some parallels and symbiotic relationship between Presearch and Flux. And Flux is basically trying to offer a decentralized solution to replace Amazon Web Services. And it's a lot cheaper, and it's a decentralized solution. So for me, Presearch, can you pull back up that tweet real quick?
Yeah.
Is it possible so I can just like go through what it said?
Yeah, give me a second. I
So
just closed
utility with it. I mean, they're trying to compete against basically the search mechanisms that basically something like Google and Bing are doing. But we realized that with something like Google is going to, they control the search mechanism. So when you're searching for a word, they control what comes up first. So big tech is a big issue that we need to be fighting. So the narrative of fighting big tech, the upcoming catalyst for Presearch is that they're turning their project into a DAO and a foundation. They have an extremely active community. Any blockchain would adore having Presearch on there because there's real use case, real utility, and real action. Every single search is a transaction on the blockchain. In addition to an active and working team, building something innovative, they've also added the ChatGPT into their search mechanisms to keep up with what's going on with Google and Bing to offer a more decentralized solution. So having a search engine that's decentralized, that's ran by the community, taking away power from an entity like Google is a powerful thing, and we need to support more of that.
Yeah, love that. And then David, did you have anything?
I noticed that Benjamin Fisher mentioned LCX up there, and LCX was a project I got into. But something that was real interesting about LCX when I first
an exchange,
got into it was it's already a security. It's listed as a security. If I'm not mistaken, they actually listed it right off the bat with the SEC as a security. But what I've really been looking into is the ISO 20022 coins, and I kind of dug real deep, went down the rabbit hole on XDC. So, and what I recommend on XDC for anybody trying to do their own research on it is go to CoinMarketCap. Go through the read more section, go all the way down through there, click on those links that are at the bottom for like the World Trade Organization, read through the World Trade Organization's documentation that they put out back in April of 2022, specifically PDF number 2, box number 16, pages 38 and 39.
That is very specific.
And yes, very specific. But if you go and read through those documents in CoinMarketCap there that they have the links for, you'll learn a lot about what has been going on since 2018 behind the scenes and what's going to happen. And it's a real epiphany once you've read through it. And because of that, I dug real deep into the XDC-based coins like PLI, WTK, GBEX, and SRX. I've been looking into those coins, which are XDC-based coins, and people like being able to take those things and pull them off.
There you go.
I put mine onto a Decent wallet, and you can get a Decent wallet for free, but it's a good place to store your XDC based coins.
Nice. Yeah, we got Benjamin Fisher saying XDC is a sleeping giant. Kevin B says XDC 3 exclamation points. Huge shout out to all of you guys. We love all 515 of you that have been hanging out with us for all of this time. If you could, that's all we have time for today. If you could smash that like button on the way out. We got about 288 likes, 500 of you guys here. So we know if all of you just pause real quick and do that, we can hit our 420 like goal for today. Like I said, just an arbitrary number. No worries there. Shout out to all of you guys. You're the best. Big Hands Dan, Crimson Caravan Company, Casino Doggy, Bud Light, your Miami Alf, Crypto Teutonic, Manawa, Crimson Caravan Company, Nakodu, Mr. Techno Goody, D Toro, Blue Collar, Crypto O, Sincere, Benjamin Fisher, Justin Eubanks, Razmataz, Dad Slav, Crimson Caravan Company. I think I already said. We love all of you guys. Kevin B, the Deadwood, Crypto O. Until next time, we will be back tomorrow in the basement, hanging out with all the basement dwellers. Same time, same place, 1:15 tomorrow afternoon. Until then, spread the love, buy some Bitcoin, eat some pizza, and say hi to your mom. That's all we got.
Touch ground.
Right.